Live. Hello, everybody. Hopefully, you can hear us and see us as usual. We'll be starting in a minute. Although I want to ask before we start the podcast today, for the people who do watch the YouTube version of this podcast for some reason, do you want us to cut this bit after the stream is done? Because I can do that. It might take a couple hours to actually make the edit, but I can cut this bit and just start with the start of the podcast. I previously wasn't doing that because I thought people kind of wanted to just tune into it live and have the entire unedited thing here. That's why it's called Windows Central Podcast Live. But I've seen a few comments in the last couple of weeks of people complaining that they don't want to listen to this bit at the start. So if that's the case, I can cut it. But it does mean that you won't be able to follow the live chat replay because it no longer syncs. So YouTube just removes it. And so you still be able to comment and stuff after the fact, and they'll show up below the video. But the actual live chats won't appear if you're watching this after the stream has been streamed. So let me know. I'll leave it up for this week, and then from next week, whatever the audience decides is what we will go with.
Tough choices.
Indeed.
Let me just get up the notes one last time. Okay, I am now recording.
I'm now recording.
3, 2, 1.
Actually, real quick, Dan, you don't need to stop. I just need to quickly start this. It will make... I'm going to do it anyway. Let's see what happens. Give me 1 sec. It will flash the camera for a sec. Let's see if this works. You should still be able to hear me on the stream.
Your camera hasn't come on yet.
Yeah, it will take a sec.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. Right now we can start.
Okay. Do I need to do a countdown again?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 358 for February 27th, 2025. Hey everyone, Dan Rubino here, joined with Zac Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central Podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about Panos and his return to Microsoft with a Surface. Oh, no, wait, sorry, that's wrong headline. He is now at Amazon, and they had a Alexa event this week where they announced some AI stuff, and we'll talk about what that was, whether we think it'll be successful, and other bits about our old pal and designer over at Microsoft. Then we'll go into some of the latest Windows 11 news, of course, because this is the Windows Central Podcast. We'll also talk about Microsoft trials its free desktop Office apps and news around that. Zac has some thoughts on Chrome OS Flex. And if you don't know what that is, that's okay. We'll explain it. Framework also announced some new devices this week, which is getting a lot of talk. I got in yesterday the Asus ZenBook A14, which used to be known as the Asus ZenBook Asus ZenBook 14 OLED, not the A14. A14 is coming later, but there's actually two A14s, which is one of our top laptops at CES. But yeah, we'll have a review for that soon. And then if we have time, we'll get to a thing of the week. Zac, how are you doing on this fine Thursday?
I'm not too bad. I'm fighting with Skype today. For some reason, it's just being slow and laggy, and it's taking forever to wake my camera. And so if there's any visual issues, you can blame Skype entirely, because I haven't changed a single thing. Skype has just decided to struggle today, and so I'm fighting it to keep this podcast alive. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. It's been a pretty normal week, end of February, thankfully, because as we're talking before the podcast, we both can't wait until spring.
Yeah.
Because the winters are terrible. January, I'm sorry if anyone has a birthday or likes January, February, but we're on the side of they're the two worst months of the year. Mostly because it's cold and just terrible weather, but that's a choice of where I live, of course. But then there's also the fact that it follows the exciting holiday season of the trifecta of Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, which really makes that time of the year just a lot of fun. And then New Year's comes and it's like, blah. There's just nothing. But anyways, let's get to Panos Panay talking about Alexa Plus. Zac, why don't you give us a rundown there of what happened?
Yeah, so this is the thing we've sort of been waiting for Amazon to announce, right? Ever since these LLMs, these big generative AI chatbots and machines started coming to market, we've sort of wondered, when's Amazon gonna join the fray? And this is it. It said Microsoft. Amazon this week announced Alexa Plus, which is their upgrade to Alexa that includes LLM technology, and so you can do pretty much everything you could normally do with it. You can do everything you could normally do with it, plus all of the advancements that generative AI brings, such as natural language, as more deep thinking and learning, and also it's a lot more automatic and automated. It can do more things for you. It can do things similar to Copilot Vision in Edge, which means you can sort of ask it a question like find me instructions or read me instructions on how to put together some piece of furniture, and it can actually browse the web for you, find the web page, and actually read the web page to you, and including describing all the images and stuff as well. It can also fill out forms apparently and like make purchases for you, which I'm less confident about, but it's apparently a feature that they're planning to ship with this. And yeah, it's really just Alexa's big generative AI moment. And the person who announced all of this on stage was Panos. I don't know if the event was streamed anywhere. I've not found an actual recording of the event. I've just obviously seen the announcements after the fact. I know there was press attendance and live blogs of the event and stuff, so I know they had sort of people there, but I don't know if the actual event was streamed. It would be very Microsoft to not stream this with Panos at Amazon now. But hey, there you are. And so, yeah, it's the biggest upgrade, I think, is the fact that it's now using natural language. So that's the biggest, I've always said the biggest enhancement versus old school chatbots and current generative AI chatbots is that you can talk to them like humans. You can interrupt them. You can sort of string a thought process together using with multiple different sort of, ideas and topics and ums and ers, and it doesn't instantly get confused. That will now come to Alexa, excuse me, and it should be able to understand your thought process. I mean, currently, so I'm an Alexa household. I don't know if anybody else, I mean, I think most people use Google, I don't know, but I'm fully Alexa, have been for forever. And the worst thing about Alexa is how rigid it is. Like you must know the commands, otherwise it just won't understand. Like I will sometimes ask it to turn the light on in one of the rooms I have, and it will go, this room has multiple lights. Which one do you want? And I'm like, no, I just turn the lights on, God's sake. Hopefully with generative AI, Alexa will be a much smarter. And so when you say that, it can understand that you probably mean, either the main light or all the lights. So yeah, stuff like that. It's quality of life improvements coming to it as well. They also say we'll be able to manage your home using more advanced AI features and stuff. So lights on and off and whatnot, locking the doors and stuff, which does lead me into the sort of question of, well, have they figured out hallucinations? Because if I ask Alexa to lock my door and it goes, yep, I did that, and it didn't, that's concerning, right? Amazon reckons that they've figured this out, and that when this starts rolling out, there shouldn't be any scenario where that happens. But
I mean, the hallucination thing, let's clear that up a little bit. I don't think that will be an issue. Hallucination mostly happens when you ask it to generate an answer. It's kind of the equivalent if I ask you to talk on a topic for 10 minutes, but you only had 3 minutes of material.
Sure. Yeah.
That's so it starts trying to fill in the gaps, and then it starts making stuff up, right? So that's really what hallucinations kind of the analogy there. I don't think if you're giving it commands, it's going to like have anything to do with that and make mistakes. I mean, there is still that trust issue, right? You're saying lock my doors, and you're assuming and hoping it really did lock your doors. But yeah.
Yeah, one of the other upgrades it looks like they're introducing is, obviously this is tied to the generative sort of natural language in general, but it seems that at least I can't, in the video that they released about it, it doesn't show them saying, the actual wake word, Alexa. Sorry for everyone who has Alexas at home. I know I'm probably setting them off every second here. They just sort of talk to it as if it's like just a human that's ambiently listening and ready to respond to you. I can't imagine that's how it fully works, but I imagine once you have initiated the wake word and you start talking to it, maybe there's a much bigger gap where it stops listening so that you can sort of intro or jump into conversations with it just sort of randomly almost. And it's supposed to be able to handle multiple different sort of queries and stuff. So you can ask it one thing, hey, what's the weather like this morning? It will give you the answer. Then you can sort of trail that and have like an entirely different conversation with it within the same breath almost, and it should understand. So that's going to be really fun as well. This is a big upgrade for Alexa. And if you are an Alexa user, this is a big deal. What's even more of a big deal is the price. So and availability. So Alexa Plus, which it's called. So the standard Alexa, I imagine, still remains. But if you want all these more advanced AI features, it will cost $20 a month, which is about the same as Copilot Pro.
Whoa!
Yeah, and it's also the same as ChatGPT Plus, I believe. I believe that's $20 as well, right, Dan?
Yeah.
So it's they've basically matched the market. But it's free if you have a Prime subscription, which I imagine a lot of people do, including myself.
Okay.
That's a big deal.
For now, until they start interjecting ads.
Absolutely, yeah. For now, but as things currently stand, it is included with Amazon Prime, which is a huge deal, and it means I'm going to use it. I would not have bought this otherwise, but because it's part of Prime, I think I'm going to give it a go, and that's really quite nice. That was the problem with Copilot Pro and all of the Office Copilot features, because they were part of that additional subscription. I personally never found value in it, but now that they've added it to Office, the Microsoft 365 subscription, I use those Copilot Pro features in Office way more now. So that's super cool. And availability. So currently they're rolling it out in sort of like an early access period for the Echo Show 8, 10, 15, and 21. They don't really say if it's going to be coming to other devices. They sort of imply that if you don't have those devices, you should buy these ones. And so maybe it won't be running out to older stuff. But yeah,
the Echo Show 10, I think.
I have an older Echo Show 8. I don't know, because again, they don't say generations. Maybe it's all Echo Shows 8. I don't know. I have an older Echo Show 8 somewhere, but all of the other ones, I have Echo like Dots, and I have an Echo Studio here, which is really nice, but the sound quality on the Echo Studio is still amazing. But I imagine a lot of this tech is cloud-based, so I don't see why it couldn't come to more Echo devices. I don't know why it would be limited to just newer general stuff, unless they're trying to force you to buy new hardware, which could be probably the case.
Probably.
Amazon devices famously suffer from
ours.
Yeah, go on.
Like ours was bought just for the single reason that my SO, she just wanted a digital clock in the kitchen that she could read from across the room.
Wow.
It's like, all right, this thing's like $200.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's the one that can follow you as you walk around the room.
The fancy one. Yeah.
Yeah, and has the cool speaker base. Like it's really good. I mean, the music and stuff like that. But we definitely don't take advantage of all its capabilities.
Me neither.
So let's talk about the usability of this. I think Amazon has a real challenge, and I don't know if this is going to necessarily solve it. We've talked endlessly about how, especially when Microsoft was trying to have smart speakers in the home, that the challenge with these devices is like what you do with them. An original foundation of Alexa was supposed to be a shopping aid. It was supposed to get you to shop more on Amazon. Like, hey, go buy this thing. I need, have this and ship it and all that. But the problem was, of course, that many of us like to shop and look at the thing that we're, using. And I think a lot of us, especially if we're buying something new, we go right to the reviews of what people are saying. And in fact, Amazon has jumped on board with like Best Buy and others, where they use AI to summarize all the reviews people have left and give a summary of that with keywords, and you can kind of jump around, and it works really well, actually. And I find it really useful. So the idea of like blind shopping with these things just won't take off. I don't see how AI fixes any of that at all, right? Because it's just not how people shop. So then it falls back to, okay, controls your lights, tells you the weather, plays music. So the only way that this gets better is just what you talked about, which is natural language use. It's just going to be less clumsy when you ask it to do things, but fundamentally doesn't do anything necessarily more. Moreover, the big issue, of course, is like, it's not like ChatGPT. It's not like Copilot. Like I use Copilot all the time. I probably use Copilot like 20 times a day, because I'm always asking it just like random questions about things I'm interested in. But like, I sit there and I type it on my phone, or I use the speaker function. And what's cool about it is that Copilot syncs across all my devices. So when I have it on my phone, if I go to my desktop, I can pull up my answer earlier from my phone. And like, that's really useful to me. Like, is Alexa are people gonna replace that on their phones with that? I don't see that happening, right? So it's the same issue that Microsoft kind of has with Copilot in that sense. Like they'd be in a much better position if they had Windows Phone around. They could have like completely, done what everyone else is doing, which is refocus the phone onto AI. But they do at least have apps on iOS and Android, and I would say probably have a bigger footprint, because they have the tie-in then to Windows Desktop and all their Office abilities. So when you're getting Copilot, you're not just getting an app on your phone, you're getting like this octopus of services that tie into everything else that Microsoft does. And people roll their eyes at all the Copilot, like jamming it in everywhere, but that's kind of its value, is the fact that it has all these endpoints where Amazon doesn't. Like, how many people go into the Amazon like Alexa app? Like, the only time I go into that is like I'm setting up something or I'm just confirming something, right? Or I need to fix it. I don't like open that regularly, like some kind of like app to check in on, So I feel like this isn't going to really help their position at all with this stuff. It hasn't certainly made me more interested in any of their products, unfortunately, either. And I don't have any real solutions to offer them. Like, I don't know what else they can do. Apple's had the same issue, right?
Yeah.
Apple speaker, no one talks about that. Yeah, I'm sure some people have it and they really enjoy it and swear by it, but no one's been talking about it. I don't remember the last time I saw anyone talking about Apple speakers anywhere, so it's like same issue there. Sonos at least has, they had their foot in the door a long time ago, and this idea of multiple speakers, you can compare them up, and people like that kind of ecosystem. So I don't know. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, it is. It is interesting how the generative AI space has moved so slowly when it comes to the ambient speaker listening type category of devices. Like, I don't even think Gemini's in Google Home devices, right? They're not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Gemini powered yet, to my knowledge. I think they're still using the traditional Google Assistant. So technically, because I mean, and I know for a fact that the HomePod is not using Apple Intelligence. So technically, I think Amazon has beaten the market to the punch here with bringing generative AI to these ambient listening devices, so to speak. But again, it's such a limited amount of hardware, at least currently. Maybe they plan to expand it to everything they currently sell, or all older generations as well. And like, I mean, in the announcement post, they do include all of the sort of Echo Show devices, plus some of the older Echo Dots, and a pair of glasses, and earbuds, and a laptop, and a phone. So they are sort of trying to push this idea that you will use this everywhere. I don't think I've ever used the Alexa app on a computer ever, but apparently it exists.
They tried to. Remember that a couple years ago?
I did.
Lenovo was pre-shipping it into their laptops. It came like pre-installed and ready to go. It had a cool idea. It had like a microphone and it was always listening and stuff.
And in a way, arguably, it probably makes sense for people to at least try and invest in this ecosystem, because it is a cross-platform ecosystem, which is arguably the better choice for most people, because not everyone wants to be locked into, the OS is I'm a Mac user, which means I have to use an iPhone, which means I have to use Siri, which means I have to use a Apple Watch. Not everybody likes that. I think Alexa being an open platform, which means it works across Mac and Windows and iPhone and Android and speakers and Alexa speakers and whatnot, is a good choice for a lot of people. And I guess Amazon must have some uses, because Alexa has a whole bunch of, and has done for a long time, have a whole bunch of like family sharing features and note-taking features and all this other stuff where you can sync different people's calendars and workflows in your family or people who live with you. And, you can call people with one Alexa in one room to another Alexa in the other room. Like, I think it's called drop-in and stuff. But there's lots of ecosystem features already built into the platform. But do you know anyone who uses it? Because as somebody who has an Alexa in the kitchen and living room and in my office here, I don't use any of that. I use it to ask questions and turn my lights on and off.
I mean, I feel like the drop-in feature, which is kind of cool, is basically video conferencing. That's what we're talking about. But at least in the United States, most people have an iPhone.
Sure.
And if you're going to have an iPhone, you're going to use FaceTime to do those kind of things.
Yeah. And that's why Apple's working on its own version of the Echo Show, right? That's the rumor anyway. So FaceTime can basically be brought to the living room, so to speak. But
I mean, the beauty of FaceTime is it's like, not only is it on every Apple device, but like if it's on your phone, you can just walk around the house, continue to do things, which is how people use it, right?
Yeah.
With the Amazon devices, it's a permanently set up camera. Sure, the thing will follow, like the one I have follows you around, which is kind of cool, but like, it's still stationary. So like you can't leave the room or anything like that. And that's just not how people necessarily do stuff. I guess it's okay for people, if you're in the kitchen and you're cooking and all that kind of stuff, but sorry, I don't know. I just don't see how
I
these
do.
take off.
It's going to be annoying as well because, and I guess this is why Amazon does find it necessary to be on phones and laptops and stuff, is because if you do start using Alexa ambiently and start using it for generative AI, and you start chatting with it and asking it questions and learning with it, doing all the stuff you'd normally do with ChatGPT or Copilot, but with your voice using an Echo device, then there might come a point where you do want to switch to the computer and continue where you left off there, typing or whatever it may be, or at least looking at the text that you've just had the conversation with so you can apply it to whatever project it is you're working on. That moment becomes frustrating because obviously these chatbots don't sync together, so I can't chat to Alexa and then open Copilot and see all the progress I've made. I'd have to go to the Alexa app or the Alexa website to do that. And so maybe Amazon's banking on the experience being so good that you sort of have no choice but to use Alexa on a computer as a result. I don't know. It's because, with all these platforms being segmented like this, it's like, who do you invest in? ChatGPT, Copilot, Alexa, Gemini, Apple, Siri? Like, which
Flexity,
one? Yeah, like who do you choose and who do you go with? And whoever you do choose, you're always going to be missing something. There's not that no one has the complete picture here, and that's really frustrating.
Yeah, and it's sort of like the whole endless debate about which is the best operating system, which usually falls onto whatever is the one you started off using first.
Yeah.
Like I have a Gemini Pro. I told you because of the Samsung, when you buy their S25 series, you get 6 months free of Pro, which is kind of cool. And I've definitely, I hadn't used it up until this point at all. Now I'm like invested in trying to use it. And it's pretty good. Like, I mean, it does on some things answer it better than Copilot, but I still use Copilot more. I like the interface of Copilot a lot. And even though it's still kind of lacking some features, I just prefer it because it's connected to more of my things,
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily a rational reason. Rationality should say, well, use the one that's better, and Gemini Pro might actually be better. I don't know. Yeah, it is a tough thing.
Are you in a position? Are you ready to trust a generative AI like Alexa Plus with buying an item for you on the internet?
Oh, of course not. No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
no, I'm not either, and I don't know when that moment comes where I am ready for that. There's always going to be, at the very least, a moment where I need
never.
to look at what is selected before I go ahead with the purchase.
Because, I mean, for one, the best price isn't always at Amazon.
But to be fair, like with some of the upgrades, they reckon it sounds like they're implying that it can browse the web and buy anything, not just Amazon.
Yeah.
So,
which I guess if they start getting on the affiliate business, possibly.
Sure.
Yeah. I will say there are some future sites are part of that, but we don't, as far as I know, get a kickback, and they're not using our data for training, but they may reference our reviews, which is kind of interesting. I don't know. I think we could probably move on from this, but it's like, we'll see what happens. I don't think this necessarily moves the line forward much for Amazon or the Alexa series, but I think also they kind of had to do this. So, it's like expected.
Do you think Panos is enjoying his time at Amazon?
In a way, yes, because
I think so.
Certainly, well, I think you'd probably rather working on a Surface Duo,
of course.
And making those kind of visions happen. That said, there are certainly challenges at Amazon, which are kind of exciting to try to, tackle. And he certainly brings in, I would say, a unique and different view to those problems. So I think it was good Amazon hire someone from the outside who comes from a different background to, reevaluate stuff. And I think this stuff will probably get better. It's just, I don't know if it's going to, like I said, move the needle on, make this stuff critical. So someone's asking, do we use Windows Phone? No, not today.
You can't. I booted up a Windows Phone today to check something, for an article, and you can't use it anymore. The App Store doesn't work. The mail and calendar apps don't work. OneDrive doesn't work. You simply can't. You can't do it. The Edge is so outdated that most websites won't load properly. Like, you can't do it. Spotify doesn't work. WhatsApp doesn't work. All of the apps basically don't work anymore. It's a dead platform. You need to move on.
Yeah, we're not that we're not that lunatic here. So, okay, let's move on to the latest Windows 11 news. Well, what's been happening this week there?
Nothing. there's
Fair
no
enough.
Windows
That's
11 news this week. That's why we didn't open with it. We can briefly talk about some Office stuff, though, which I know sounds very exciting. Curiously, this week, a report appeared on bbomb.com, I think it was, reporting that Microsoft had launched a free version of the Office desktop apps for Windows. And looking into this, it did appear to be the case. So what happens is when you load up Office for the first time, usually you get prompted to sign in, and if you don't sign in, it kicks you out and says you need to sign in or at least provide a product key. Otherwise, you can't use Office because Office is paid software. And the reason you need to sign in is because obviously you need a Microsoft 365 subscription. Or at least you have done historically. This version of Office was a bit different. It allowed you to skip sign in and choose a free tier of the Office desktop. Wow, tripped over my words. Desktop apps. So when you did that, it would take you into Word or PowerPoint, whatever, whichever app you've chosen to open, and you would be, put in the position where you can start writing in your Word document. But the app would be quite different. It would have a whole bunch of different features locked at the top. They'd be sort of behind padlock icons, and to access them, you'd need to subscribe to Microsoft 365. But basic editing and formatting was there, so you could use Word and do a very basic letter or report, whatever it may be. And bullet points and stuff, I think were supported. Very basic formatting, but that's about it. You weren't getting headers and all this other stuff. Oh, obviously no Copilot and whatnot, but you could do basic editing. And these were the full desktop versions of Office. And this is the first time I believe Microsoft had tried something like this, because previously, if you wanted to use Office for free, your only option really was to use the Office web apps, which are actually pretty good. There's nothing wrong with the Office web apps, but they're obviously sometimes it's nicer to use a native Windows app, so to speak. And so this would have been really interesting. Now, Microsoft has come out and confirmed that this is just a trial. They're not officially announcing any new version of Office today that's free. But the fact that it exists and is in testing in certain regions is a good sign that in the future, there will be a version of the Office desktop apps that you can run on your PC that you don't need a subscription for. Which I think is a really big deal, and it is obviously a direct compete strategy with Google Sheets, I believe, or Google Docs. Google Docs is quite popular these days, especially amongst younger generations who've sort of been brought up with it in Chrome OS or Chromebooks and whatnot. And so Microsoft is probably trying to fight that. And another way to do that is to offer Office for free, because you can imagine the headlines, right? Office is now free. Obviously, it's this very basic version of Office with most features locked behind the 365 sub, but for a lot of people, especially kids, that's all you need. You just need the basic edit. That's all I need. And I'm a 30-year-old guy almost. It's like I only need Word for writing text. I could probably do it in WordPad, but Microsoft killed WordPad, so I only have no choice but to use Office. And so yeah, this is cool. I hope this comes to life, because I think it would breathe life, or it would at the very least encourage users to actually try Office who have sort of already settled on Google Docs, because I know a lot of people have, because it's free and they work quite well. And again, as Dan said earlier, it's what right? It's whatever you grew up using. It's kind of what you stick to. And regardless of if there's better out there, because let's be honest, Office is better than Google Docs by a long shot. But a lot of kids don't know that, or rather they don't care. And so maybe making Office free would give them a chance to at least try it and understand that actually Office does have a lot more to offer. Dan, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is a good strategy for Microsoft? Do you think this will result in people unsubscribing from 365? Because I know I might.
Yeah, it's I don't know. They definitely need to try new things. I don't begrudge them that, but I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion on this one. So they do make some controversial decisions here and there. Certainly, Office is one of their most popular services, right? You have Office, Azure, Windows, especially for business and enterprise, right? So I think, the enterprise angle is probably the more important one versus consumer. But yeah, you're right. Although I would say if you're in college, you're probably way more likely to be using PowerPoint in addition to Word. And a lot of people do use Excel. I mean, I don't even know, true, Excel might be as popular, if not more as popular or not more popular than Word. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say on it.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there is literally no other Windows news this week. I guess we could briefly talk about the Windows 365 link appearing in some photos, which we already knew it was getting ready to launch. Microsoft announced back in whenever it was originally announced that the Windows 365 link would be coming in April. We're getting closer to April, and now we're starting to see images of it appear online. And it's actually very small. If you look at real pictures of it in people's hands, it's about the size of people's hands. It's not very big. And again, for $350, it's basically a streaming box. It has an Intel, to our knowledge, because up until now we didn't know what processor it runs. To our knowledge, it runs an Intel N250, which is a very baseline, low-end Intel processor.
Yeah, and that's old.
Yeah, but it's fine for this thing because again, it remains plugged in. It sits at a desk and it streams Windows. You can connect it to a cloud PC with 64 gigs of RAM and a massive GPU and whatever else. It doesn't really matter what's in the box because you're not doing anything on the box. All the box is there for is to handle the stream between you and your cloud PC. And so, yeah, I've had a lot of people come forward and go, oh, this thing's too expensive. It doesn't make sense. For one, it's not for you. It's for enterprises. You're never going to buy one of these. It would be your IT admin or whoever handles sending out work devices at your company. You will receive one because you have to use one for work. You will not buy one out of your own pocket. And so you have nothing to worry about as an end user. But yeah, that's getting closer to launch, and it runs Windows CPC, I think is the official name, but it's codename NXT, and this is this super lightweight version of Windows. But yeah, that's basically all the Windows news. Again, we are recording this on Thursday, so there might be some insider builds out tomorrow. We don't know, but it won't be part of this week's episode, so RIP.
Fair enough. I just want to address a question or a statement, I should say, in the comments, which is that Copilot and Alexa are pointless. If you don't have your own phone devices, they just won't ever sail. I have tried Alexa on my Pixel 9, and because it's a Android device, it restricts full function. I mean, I said the same thing about Alexa, so I agree there. Copilot, though, I disagree a little bit because Copilot, as we were just talking about, has a lot of endpoints in Microsoft's other products, including Office, which is a really big thing for a lot of people. A lot of people have Office. I would agree if Copilot was just siloed and that's the only place that was there, or on Windows desktop. But because it's on Windows, because it's on phones, it's in Office, it's in GitHub, it's like in all these other places, it makes it much more, it's built into Edge, right? It's much more accessible. Like Alexa is not any of those things, right? There's no Alexa in a browser right now. I don't know anyone who uses the Alexa desktop app, and they don't have any other endpoints, right? So I would say that's the advantage Microsoft has. But we're all in agreement that if they had their own phone system, they'd be in a much better position. I don't think there's any debate about that, but there's nothing they could do about that either. That said, looking at the Play Store, it is clear they are coming from behind in terms, but it's like, if you look at Gemini, it has like 100 million plus downloads, but it's also pre-installed now in a lot of phones, right? So they're going to always have that advantage. In fact, if you don't have it pre-installed, when you go to use the chat assistant app, you get a lot of reminders, like, hey, go try Gemini now, So yeah, they'll always have that advantage there. Chat GPT definitely has also 100 million downloads. And I think that's just because that's become synonymous, right, with generative chat. Whereas Microsoft Copilot only has 10 million plus downloads. Yeah. So big difference. That said, though, Copilot matches Gemini for reviews in terms of they both got 4.7 stars. So people who use Copilot really enjoy Copilot, and people who use Gemini like it. And ChatGPT also has a high, I think it's 4.8 stars. So all these apps do pretty well. Again, which just confirms my idea that like you use the one that you're exposed to at first and makes it easier to use. I started using Copilot first, so that's why I use it. But if Gemini were built into Windows, I'd be using Gemini more. So I think Microsoft has a shot here, but we have to be realistic too. It'll never be as popular as Gemini. It'll never be as popular as ChatGPT just because of the market dynamics. But people seem to be happy with it. I think that's just as important too. If it had like a 3.8 review, I'd be like, okay, this is kind of in trouble, right? It's not only not being downloaded as much, but people don't seem to enjoy it as much. But that's not really the case. So Moving on, Chrome OS Flex. Is it good? Well, first, Zach, why don't you explain what Chrome OS Flex is? How would you get it, and what devices can it run on? Because this is, in some ways, old news,
Yeah.
but now you're trying it for the first time and have some thoughts on it.
Yeah, so Chrome OS Flex is a project Google put together, I want to say a couple of years back. It's not super new, but it's not super old as well, because for a long time, Chrome OS was exclusive to Chrome OS devices unless you use some sort of third-party hacked version or whatever it may have been. But Chrome OS Flex is an official version of Chrome OS by Google that you can install on basically any device you want. There's no guarantee it will work on any device you want. There is technically a list of certified models, but you can certainly try to run it on any device you want, and your results may vary. The reason I sort of sprung to try it out this week is because, you know, the end of Windows 10's support cycle is approaching. You know, that's happening in October this year. There are still millions of Windows 10 PCs out there that simply will not get Windows 11 officially ever. They're not supported on Windows 11, and so they're sort of stuck. And so I was looking at what can these people do, and an option is Chrome OS Flex. Now, Chrome OS Flex, again, it's Chrome OS. If you don't know what Chrome OS is, it's a web-based operating system. It's basically Chrome, and that's it. It runs the Chrome browser. It has a taskbar on the bottom, but every single app you run, more or less, is a website. Now, Chromebooks technically have a more advanced version of Chrome OS. They can run Android apps and Linux apps. Chrome OS Flex can't do that. It's quite simply just the basic Chrome OS operating system with the ability to run web apps. Very similar to Windows 10X, believe it or not. So I tried it. I have a HP Spectre X360 here. This is from 2016, I want to say. It has an Intel 7th gen chip, Intel Core i7 7th gen with 16 gigs of RAM and 12 gigs of SSD storage. At the time of its release, it was a flagship laptop from HP. It's ineligible for Windows 11. I've tried running Windows 11 on it. Windows 11 is a bit slow on it. It's not very good, and you know there's some graphical issues here and there. It's not a great option, and that's why it's not eligible for Windows 11. So although you can force it, I wouldn't recommend doing that. So I did try Chrome OS Flex, and I've been blown away by how good this thing works on here. Everything works out of the box, and to my knowledge, this is not a laptop that has that it's not on their certified models list. So this was pot luck essentially. And to my knowledge, every single thing works except the IR sensors for face unlock. To my knowledge, that's because Chrome OS doesn't support face unlock. It does pin, and I think you can unlock it with your watch, Apple Watch, Android Watch and stuff, but it doesn't support face unlock. To my knowledge, but everything works. The webcam works, the keyboard, the trackpad works, the screen, the touch screen, sound, brightness, it all works. Sleep, wake, it works just as you would expect. And this is a much lighter OS compared to Windows. Again, it's a 7th gen Intel processor, but it's an Intel Core i7, so you know it was fine on Windows 10. Windows 11, like I said, it's a little bit slow. But this thing flies on here, and it's amazing. I can have hundreds of tabs open if I wanted to, and it wouldn't matter. And the actual experience is really great. I've never really tried Chrome OS. I've had Chromebook devices around, but I've never really invested in them because they've always been really cheap, low-end stuff with horrible screens, and I can't, you know me, I can't see past a horrible screen. This, again, the Spectre here is, again, an old laptop, but it's got a lovely screen and whatnot on it. And so, yeah, I've been able to sit down and really invest in Chrome OS here, and I think it's really nice. It's got nice animations. It has a lot of sort of comforts that Windows users will expect. Things like Snap Assist is there, so you can do like snapping things side by side using the little drop-down menu. Like it's all there, which is really cool. The start menu is where you would expect it to be in the bottom left corner. You've got your apps that are pinned in the middle, just like on Windows 11. You've got your system tray on the far right with a quick access panel, which gives you access to things like settings and Wi-Fi. Focus Assist is here. I actually think my Windows 11 copied this from Chrome OS and not the other way around. Yeah, it's all here, and it's all very familiar, and I can't help but think that's deliberate on Google's part. I think Chrome OS is designed to be familiar for a reason, and the fact that I'm an Edge user makes switching to Chrome really easy because Microsoft has done very little to differentiate Edge from Chrome, and that is actually playing against them here. I know that was originally designed to entice Chrome users over to Edge, but it's actually playing against them in reverse here. So now I'm using Chrome, and I'm basically right at home. I don't feel out of place at all using Chrome on Chrome OS. And so this has got me thinking, and I'm going to put an editorial together next week about this. Is Windows in trouble as millions and millions of Windows 10 PCs basically become unsupported later this year? You can give them a new lease of life by installing Chrome OS Flex. And yes, of course, you will lose access to Windows apps, but I would argue a lot of apps on desktop these days are already web apps. You can get Spotify, Discord, Slack, Teams, Outlook. In fact, you can basically install the Windows 11 email client, that being Outlook, on Chrome OS because it's a web app. The Windows 11 email client being Outlook is a web-based app, and you can do the same here, and it looks and feels and functions pretty much exactly the same. All of the Telegram's a web app. Basically, every app I use on Windows, apart from things like Premiere Pro, which not everybody uses anyway, are web apps. And so I've basically not missed anything moving to Chrome OS Flex, and that is concerning. Windows is becoming less relevant to a lot of people these days. A lot of people, I mean, we've talked about this before, a lot of people don't even really need Windows. They use it because that's what they know. But if they're just running Chrome on top of Windows and Windows 10 runs out of support later this year, they would be better served just installing Chrome OS Flex. Now, I know normal people aren't going to do this. They don't even know it exists. But it doesn't take a lot for people to, word of mouth. And, how did Chrome, the browser, become popular? Because people told people about it, and eventually it just became the sort of go-to browser for everybody. I can't imagine that's happening to Chrome OS Flex, but even if it took out 10-20% of the Windows market share, that would be impressive and amazing. And it's all Microsoft's fault, because Microsoft doesn't have a version of Windows like this. They don't have a lightweight version of Windows that can run on super old hardware. They just stop supporting older versions of Windows, and everyone gets stuck there because no one wants to buy a new laptop. Because again, like if you bought this laptop when in 2016, you probably spent $1,500 on it, and it's still a great laptop. There's nothing really wrong with it. And so why not install an operating system that will actually run better on it and have better battery life because it's just lighter weight in general? So yeah, this just makes me what this really did is make me think that Windows 10X should have definitely happened. There needed to be a lightweight version of Windows in the market to compete with stuff like this, because now you could point to Windows 10X and go, oh yeah, that or Windows 11X at this point it would be. You install that on these older devices because it runs great. It runs, Edge and web apps and whatnot, but it's it's super lightweight and it just works. That's what you can say about Chrome OS Flex, and you can't say that about Windows 10 PCs that are end of support this year and can't upgrade to Windows 11 because they're stuck. And so, yeah, Dan, I wonder what your thoughts are on this. Do you think Chrome OS Flex is a real competitor to Windows 11, or at the very least PCs that can't upgrade to Windows 11?
It's actually kind of funny because your points are definitely valid, and we can make the criticisms against Microsoft, which are valid too. But there's also criticisms against Google because they ignore this thing.
Yeah.
They do not talk about it.
Yeah.
They do not promote it.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot it even existed. Like you and a lot of people, I don't know what hardware necessarily works on. So it is kind of weird that you're right that in theory this could be a threat to Microsoft, but we can also thank the incompetence at Google that they're not going down that route where they probably could. I do agree with the Windows 10X thing that Microsoft could load it up with all their cloud services,
right?
Push it for schools especially. But for older hardware that you have laying around, give it new life while also keeping people in the Windows ecosystem, which again, tied to Microsoft services, right? That's really what Microsoft is these days. Windows is an operating system, but it's also a platform for its services where it does make additional money on, including game streaming, which this would be able to do, right? Yeah. There's no reason why it can't. And it's also interesting that I've used Chrome OS in the past, never really thought much of it, but a lot of that had to do with the fact it was on cheaper hardware, right? It was just not great hardware to use, which made it less exciting. And it's like, why am I going to use this kind of flimsy, cheap device that doesn't have a great keyboard, or the camera sucks, or something like that, when I have like a really nice premium Windows laptop? I would say the only drawback for Google, but would also be for 10X too, is the inability to just directly install apps, right?
Yes.
It's the same reason like Windows on ARM. Windows on ARM had two things holding it back. One was performance for a long time, and then the other one, of course, was app compatibility. But had they solved the app compatibility problem, say on day one, then we would have just been talking about how, well, the performance isn't great on these devices, by comparison. But that would have been a completely separate argument that would have, but when you combine both of those, it kind of sunk Windows on ARM for a long time. So I don't know how you necessarily solve that. Although one way you can do it is how other companies have done it. You can buy streaming services where you install Windows remotely, right, in the cloud, install all the apps through that, and then you're streaming that to your device, right? And then Microsoft could charge a small fee for this every month, which would just be another return subscription, right? Mm-hmm. So I think you're right. They do need to go down this route, especially because of all the leftover hardware around. But having a cloud-based device like that, I think, could be really good. And it is kind of a shame that they're not doing that. It's also weird thinking how Panos was in charge of Windows for a while.
Yeah.
That was just like such an odd kind of thing.
Microsoft has been trying for years to do a lightweight version of Windows, and they keep fumbling it every single time. Obviously, 10X was the closest we got, and then they decided to cancel it. There's NXT, which is supposed to be this new effort where it is another web-based version of Windows that's supposed to only really run web apps and Edge. Who knows if they will actually ship? I don't know. NXT technically runs on the Windows 365 link, but that's an even more stripped back version. Doesn't even run the Edge browser to my knowledge. It runs WebView, but doesn't run the Edge browser. So yeah, like, who knows? Will we ever get a web-based lightweight version of Windows? Maybe. Microsoft keeps trying, and so I'm there for it. As Microsoft, if you want to keep trying, I'll keep pushing because I want you to try. But yeah, that's that. Chrome OS Flex is pretty cool. Should we move on to the framework stuff real quick? The only reason I want to talk about this is because I'm not really a huge fan of framework in general. But they announced three new devices this week. They announced a new Framework 13, which is their sort of traditional laptop that they've been selling for a long time with updated processors and this, that, and the other. For those who don't know what Framework is, by the way, they are historically laptop makers, but they make modular hardware. So you can buy a laptop from them, a Framework laptop, and you can upgrade all the individual components, whether that be the screen, the keyboard and trackpad, speakers, the processor, the RAM, the ports. You can basically upgrade individual components as you go. And so that's super nice. And you can also upgrade it from like a Windows computer to a Chrome OS device, or you can store Linux on it, Linux on it as well if you wanted. But this week they announced some new hardware. So like I said, they updated the Laptop 13, which is, their sort of bog standard flagship laptop they've had for a long time. But they introduced two new devices. They announced the desktop, which you might be wondering, aren't desktops modular anyway? Not all of them. And also this one's kind of fun because it allows you to do the same things with like swapping out the ports on the fly and stuff, which most desktops don't allow you to do. Swapping out USB ports on a traditional desktop is a pain in the butt. And so this makes it super easy to do that. But then they also announced a 12-inch laptop. And this is why I wanted to talk about this, is because obviously we've been hearing rumors that Microsoft is planning to introduce a 12-inch laptop this spring. Is this the year of 12-inch laptops suddenly? What's going on? Why are 12-inch laptops coming back?
Well, yeah, but it's also, a lot of it has to do with display makers too and what's available. But I would say because the market has moved to 14-inch as the standard, which kind of had been the standard a little bit more in Europe than the US, but now in the US, 14 is kind of the standard. So it makes sense that people may want to go to maybe a smaller version than that. And 13 wouldn't be enough of a jump, right? So now you have to go down to 12.
Yeah. So this was technically announced, but it's not available to buy yet, so we don't know all the specs. It has a 12.2-inch touchscreen. I'm curious if this is the display that will be used in the Surface as well. I have a feeling it could be. Depends on the resolution. If this is only a 1080p panel, it won't be. Surface.
I'm pretty sure it's only 1080p. Yeah.
Actually, no, at 12 inches, it might be fine. It could be the same panel. I don't know, because like I said, they haven't actually revealed the specs of the display, so I don't know. But it will be powered by 13th gen Intel Core processors, i3 and i5, up to 48 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of NVMe storage. I've seen a lot of love for this. People online are sort of super happy that this is coming. It's available in a whole bunch of nice colors as well, which is super fun. It's always interesting how these days smaller devices equals supposed to be more fun, and so they imply that by making it colorful. You can have lots of different colorful icons. That's exactly what they've done here. I actually really like the look of this, and it's now, up until this announcement, wasn't a believer in 12-inch laptops. I thought they were too small. 14 inches is the perfect size, but now I'm looking at this and I'm seeing all the love for it online. I'm like, maybe a 12-inch laptop does make sense. I don't know.
Mm.
It's interesting. I can't believe Microsoft is also pursuing this at some point this year. Like, why? I apparently there's a market for it. People like them, and so yeah, this has made me more excited for this rumored 12-inch Surface laptop that's supposed to be on the horizon. I know, Dan, you're probably not a fan of this because you like big laptops, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get the appeal. I'd be curious. I don't think it's necessarily a slam dunk, but I also get the idea that people sometimes, if you're not a heavy laptop user, but you need a laptop on occasion, why a 12-inch one would be good, right? If all you're doing is kind of checking email, doing web, and want a full keyboard with a larger display, I can see how this ticks some boxes. Um, for me, just because of getting older, my eyes are getting a little bit worse. I don't need reading glasses, but like, it's probably going to head down that path eventually. But I do like 14-inch displays. The best 15-inch are okay, but then the footprint of the laptop starts getting a little too big. The Samsung 16-inch laptop I have is actually, it's amazing. The display is so big, vibrant with super thin bezels, but it's almost like too much display, right? It's like when I was using the 18-inch LG Gram, where you open it up in a room and like literally everyone can see what you're doing. One reason I like Surface Pro is it's not a big screen. It was that 13.3 inch or something like
It's
that,
just 13-inch on
13.4.
the dot.
Oh, just 13.
Yeah.
But because of its keyboard design and the way it is, I can always bring it in much closer when I need to, right? And in fact, the distance between my screen and my eye on a Surface Pro versus a laptop is definitely, Surface Pro is closer just because of its design. So I can get away with it there. But yeah, like I said, for certain markets, yeah, I could see possibly people buying this. I'm not, but I also don't know if it's a slam dunk design.
Yeah.
As far as framework stuff, I think they're a super interesting company. They've been around for about 5 years now. You can buy the new motherboard with processor and all that, and like literally drop it into their first gen laptop from like 5 years ago, which is pretty crazy, right? That really does like, that's a challenge for them that they had to build all this stuff and improve it generation to generation, all these little components, but also try to make them as backwards compatible as they can be. So that's definitely hard. What's been sacrificed, I think, with that is probably, I imagine these things feel a little bit more flimsy-ish because they're going to have a lot more play
Yeah.
in them, just because of all the literally moving parts that are technically there. Also aesthetics and looks, right? Even that 12-inch has looks like one of the HP budget laptops you'd find at Walmart, where it's like got the thick bezels and stuff like that. Another thing about these look premium. They're all plastic,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not like criticizing framework, because it's like I said, what they're trying to do, you have to sacrifice something, and while also keeping the price competitive on these things, right? So they're definitely not for me. We're also spoiled. We get laptops pretty frequently here. It's like, oh, this laptop's 6 months old. Disgusting. It's like, but if I was on my own, I might think differently. I would definitely see the appeal for it. If like I didn't have this job and I just need a laptop, I think framework, I would definitely look at it as like an option, because that ability just to have that one laptop that you can just upgrade whenever you have the money, like a desktop, is certainly intriguing. And they definitely had a niche audience for this, right? There is definitely a small group of people out there who demand this kind of functionality.
Yeah.
And I think that's great that the market has the flexibility where a smaller company startup can almost come in and fill that gap. To larger PC makers, credit, their laptops have at least become much more repairable. Lenovo has one of their laptops. It just takes like a basic screwdriver, 4 screws, and the thing pops off. And we saw Asus has a gaming laptop where I think the SD card just pops out, same with the RAM. So they're making this stuff a lot more accessible. Sometimes their hands are tied. Some of the new Intel chips have memory baked in. So, and that's actually an issue with the framework, by the way. I think it's on the 12-inch. You can't upgrade the RAM on those
Right.
because it's going to use Intel Lunar Lake. but that's just, or no, sorry, they're using AMD. They're using AMD for those, but AMD has the memory tied to the chip, and so they can't decouple that. So that's not their fault, right? That's just the tools out there. But at least even like Surface went from like on iFixit like a 0 or 1 for repairability to like 8 or 9, right? I think they're up there pretty much. So I do appreciate that. I think repairability is super important, and Framework certainly solves that issue. But yeah, there's no way any other laptop outside of maybe upgrading RAM, which is typically found in gaming laptops, you can do that, or the SSD. There's really not much else you can upgrade in a laptop, and I don't see that changing. So
yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in regards to the Framework stuff. I just thought it's interesting that they're doing a 12-inch laptop the same year Microsoft is rumored to be doing a 12-inch one as well. So yeah, very interesting.
I got to reboot my display. Hold on.
I did see your camera froze for some reason. Technical difficulties. That's nice that Skype puts a little watermark there, but Skype's at fault. Actually, technically, I think Dad's monitor's at fault this time.
Yeah, this is something to do with Dell. This monitor is my favorite monitor in the world. It's their 6K 32-inch and has an amazing webcam built in, but for some reason, every once in a while, it will randomly
give up,
crash. It just locks and crashes, and I don't know why. It's really bizarre.
You are a prime customer for reinstalling Windows. You need a clean.
No, it's not. I've switched computers and it's done this.
It's just bad. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just some bug with it. Yeah, I thought I mean, that would be my first go-to, right? That it's something with the computer, but no, it's not. It is what it is. All right. Well, now that problem is solved, let's see, what else have we got on the list here? The ZenBook A4. Oh, sorry. Yep. Yeah, so the ZenBook 14, what was known as the ZenBook 14 OLED last year. I just got it in yesterday. I could hold it up, but I don't know if it's going to be blurred out. No, it probably won't be. I mean, it's something exciting on the outside. It's a pretty basic looking laptop. The reason I just want to talk about it for a few minutes is I think Asus is a super interesting company. They're a company whose laptops I've used or tried out for a couple of years now, and they've never been my favorite. I think, we've talked about this on a podcast that ever since Surface came along, especially HP, Dell, Lenovo, just been firing on all cylinders and really they all have their very unique design language, right? HP laptops don't look anything like Dell's, and Dell's don't look anything like Lenovo's, and no one looks like Surface. And they've just been all like almost outpacing each other. Like for a long time, we were like, Surface are the best PCs, but then like HP got really good, and like in terms of their designs and functions, especially with the Spectre series, right? And Dell's always had the XPS line, and then Lenovo's Yoga line is no joke either. Like all these companies got really good, and they started offering features that Microsoft wasn't doing, whether it was anti-reflective displays, improved cameras, different GPU options, all that. And Asus, I don't know, their stuff always felt a little cheaper. Their designs were never that appealing, but then it was also just a functionality. Speakers were always trash. Their webcams were trash. Their displays were okay, usually pretty good, but the rest of the device just was like not exciting and didn't really offer necessarily any advantages. Although they would do cool stuff like making the touchpad into a number pad, right, when you hold it down, which was kind of creative. In fact, this laptop has that. But within the last couple of years, they've been definitely investing in design and improving all this stuff, and it's made a big difference. The G14 gaming laptop that came out last year is one of the most popular and well-received gaming laptops I've seen. It's just absolutely outstanding. And what's interesting was I think they sacrificed a little bit of performance. Like they didn't have like year-on-year performance improvements, but instead they improved everything else around the laptop, including its design, which is a really bold choice, but I think that's one that's paid off. So this ZenBook 14, I think it's now available, has the Gen 2 Core Ultra processors, which make their big thing, of course, is efficiency. So they're going to get way better battery life. So this has a H series processor, the i7, I think. So that's on the high end, right? That's the H series is usually what you use to find in like a Dell XPS 15, right? So the big, more workstation type laptops. But this is a really thin laptop. And the reason I'm just talking about too is because I have last year's model, which had Core Ultra Series 1. And it was a great laptop. I mean, it's really good. And I liked it. But the battery life was kind of not amazing, but it wasn't terrible. But this year's model, not only does the battery life seem really good on it, and you're getting a really powerful chip in there, the speakers, which are now tuned by Harman Kardon, they're working with them. I don't know if I want to say like they're the best speakers. Possibly Lenovo's Yoga device with the speaker bar might be up there. But these are definitely some of the best speakers I've heard in a long time on a laptop. Like, they're shockingly good. They're loud. There's some bass. There's a lot of good separation with the channels. I was just really surprised. I was like, wow, there's a difference between being acceptable and then kind of actually being impressed. And I'm actually really impressed with the battery life on it. And the touchpad's fine. It's mechanical. It's a good touchpad. I mean, it's actually a really good touchpad. It's very smooth. And of course, it has the ability where you press down in the corner and it lights up a number pad, which I don't ever really need to use, but it's such a clever design because you don't know it's there until you push down that button. The web camera has been really good on it. Display is a 3K 120 hertz OLED, display, variable refresh. Really can't ask for anything more. I believe it's touch as well. And it's got all the ports, HDMI, Type A, 2 Type C, Thunderbolts, so it's got the standard stuff on it. But it's a really nice laptop. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. It's like, it's a standard clamshell, 14-inch. They're not, really priced high. I think they're only like in about $1,200. Let's see. Yeah, it's got a backlit keyboard, full HD camera, has Windows Hello, has a smart amp technology, built-in speaker, blah, 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 Wi-Fi 7, tri-band.
What processor?
75 watt hour battery. The CPU is oh, that's right. This one actually, I got the upgraded one. This is the Core Ultra 9 285H processor. So this is like top tier. You don't get much better. Actually, the only it goes up to 5.4 gigahertz, which is really crazy. The only downside is the NBU. It only goes up to 13 tops.
Yeah,
that's
so
Intel.
It's not a Copilot PC.
It's not a Copilot PC.
Trash. Throw it away.
Yeah. It's so weird but that's Intel's fault, right?
Yeah,
it's just because of the chips that they decided. Well, it's not that he said. They just got caught off guard with these designs.
So I was going to ask, so what's the difference between this and the ZenBook S14? But I'm guessing it's that, because the S14 is Copilot Plus, and they have Intel Lunar Lake and
the processor is the processor is the U series, so it's not nearly as powerful as this one.
Unless you're using
where this
the
is yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, this is the same kind of, like, you might find this in some gaming laptops, although there's another processor they can use for that too. But yeah, I mean, this is like what you would find, like I said, like in a 15-inch XPS 15, like a year or two ago, is in this thing. But it only, let's see, what's its weight? Find that. Yeah, it's 2.82 pounds, right? So it's not super light, but it's definitely not heavy for everything it has. And it's only like 1.5 inches thick, I think it is.
Nice.
God, I can't be that right.
I still don't think I could swap out.
Oh, centimeters.
Yeah.
It's 0.6 inches thick.
Yeah.
1.49 centimeters thick. So it's a pretty thin laptop. But
it's still not a haptic trackpad, though, is it? Asus,
No.
for some reason, are very against. Well, they're not against, but they they value the additional battery life they gain by not including a haptic trackpad. Is what they told me at CES earlier this year. So I disagree with them though. I would rather slightly less battery life work for a better haptic trackpad, if I'm honest.
Yeah, this is a thing that's going to take a little while for companies to come around on. But yeah, it's a good trackpad though. Like I really don't have any complaints about it. I would definitely prefer haptic, but like when I'm using this thing, I'm not like, kind of cringing or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the I'll probably do a full review on this, of course, the ZenBook. So ZenBook 14 OLED. But go look it up. I have specifically UX3405CA is the model number in Boggy Silver. They do make a Ponder Blue version, which has the different options of Core Ultra 7 or Core Ultra 9. I think this also has 32 gigs. Yeah, they both have 32 gigs of LPDDR5X, which is really impressive.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is just a more powerful laptop for people who need a little bit more stuff, but as long as you're not doing AI tasks, I guess. But the bottom line is, I think Asus is just a company to watch. I know we got the Z13 Flow in, which if that doesn't ring a bell, that's basically Asus a couple of years ago basically made a Surface Pro that could game, and this is the first time they've upgraded it, and it's using now new AMD processors, and it's a really cool looking device. It only weighs, I think, like 2.9 pounds or something, so it's also not heavy, but it's basically just like a Surface Pro, slightly thicker obviously, but way more powerful because it can game. And it's been getting some amazing reviews, and I know everyone who was covering Asus for CES was really impressed by it. And then we have the other one that's coming in is the A14, ZenBook A14. So that's the super light one that runs the Qualcomm chips. I've heard good things. Some of the reviews coming out are pretty good, saying, but the price is high because it's $1,099. But the one to get is going to be the $899 model. That's coming to Best Buy, because that one you're going to get 16 gigs of RAM, the Snapdragon Plus processor. And yeah, although the issue is, I think people pointed this out, you can get like a laptop 7 discounted pretty cheaply now, right? Which would be a better overall laptop to get. But then again, I'm sure these Asus ones, I think if it's $899 is the retail price, it's probably going to drop down to $700 at some point, which is going to be just a steal for a device. But we'll have more on that coming up in a couple weeks. I'm also getting in today, and thankfully UPS or FedEx hasn't come by yet because my dogs are nice and sleepy right now. I'm getting the Lenovo, oh boy, what's it called? X914, I believe that's what it is. That doesn't sound familiar. It's because it's a brand new series for them. The X9 is their first ThinkPad that doesn't have a track point on it. And so this kind of solves one of the problems they have with, some people want to get rid of the track points, but they have a lot of diehard users who love it and don't want to. I'll say Lenovo has some other ideas that they're working on regarding that too, but this is a more modern line that's supposed to appeal to younger people who also want a ThinkPad, but also want a device that's really good in all of their circumstances. I believe it also has a 3K OLED display and stuff like that. It's so thin that they couldn't fit the ports in on the side. So they did a thing called a barrel port, I think it's called. It's basically looks like an attachment that goes on the bottom towards the rear. And it's like a little metal flat tube that goes across the entire bottom, which then allows them just to put just the ports in there. And that's the only space it'll take up. And it has the 2 fans that go in there as well. And it also helps because it kind of elevates the laptop a little bit when it's open. So it's a really kind of clever design. It reminds me of how Lenovo solved having super thin bezels, but also wanting to put in like a Windows Hello really good webcam. So they put in the notch, but it was a we call it the reverse notch because Apple decided to put their camera in the screen,
Right.
which was so dumb looking. And Lenovo had the notch that went out from the design, which was great because not only did they get good cameras and Windows Hello in there, but now it acted as a little grip point for opening the lid. So this reminds me of that kind of thing, but it looks like a really cool design. That too, that's running Intel Core Ultra also, Series 2, but that seems to be getting some pretty good reviews as well. It's certainly, if you've wanted like a ThinkPad X1 Carbon or something like that, or any other ThinkPad, but you wanted a little bit more of a modern take on it. Although they also have the Z series, which does that too. So hopefully we'll have some content on that coming up soon. But those are, I think, these are two really interesting laptops that we're covering. The A14 is really great. And I know next week, actually, we should have the review going up real soon for the Lenovo Yoga 9i Slim, which, that's the one that's just all aesthetics. It's just such a gorgeous laptop. Has a 98% screen to body ratio. Now that one has such thin bezels, they used an under screen camera, which, spoiler alert,
it's bad.
Is not that great. Yeah, is not nearly as good. So they definitely sacrificed the camera just for looks on this device, but boy, does it look really good. And the review is very positive.
Yeah, the screen, the actual display itself is incredible as well. It's an 4K OLED, I believe, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
Something like that.
14-inch screen. Yeah, insane.
Yeah, and it should be 120 hertz refresh, I imagine. But yeah, that's the Yoga Slim 9i Aura edition. If you don't know what Aura edition is, it just means that, so it's Intel based. Lenovo and Intel have teamed up, and they are starting to label their laptops Aura laptops. And it just means it's the latest Intel processor, but it does do some things like you can tap your phone to the display and like transfer photos, and has some other smart AI stuff into it that's exclusive to those devices. This is one thing I've said, why is Intel in so many laptops? It's because they do partnerships like this with companies where they kind of co-engineer the laptop to really maximize battery performance. I was told Samsung has worked real closely with Intel for these reasons. And so they get the...
It's why the Surface Neo had an Intel chip.
Yeah. And it's just because that co-engineering, really helps manufacturers because they can really maximize performance and balance the heat and all this kind of stuff, since they have the people who make the chips there, right? So Aura editions, that's what that means. But cool. I think that's all I want to talk about. Oh, just real quickly, also update with the Samsung stuff. I gotta still write this up, but with the S25 Ultra, and I've been using the Watch Ultra and the Ring, and I am really positive on this. So I was a little worried with the Samsung Health stuff, whether or not, because I've been using Aura for such a long time, and I also have an Apple Watch, and how would it compare? I can't speak to the accuracy, right? I can do my own tests on accuracy and all that kind of stuff, but technically I don't have a independent control to compare either to, right? So if I compare it to Aura, I could be like, well, it's not as accurate or doesn't get the same results as Aura, but was Aura ever accurate? I don't know either, right? So you don't know. I will say it's pretty consistent. But what I really like is in the Samsung Health app. It's very well built out with useful information. One of the criticisms I have with Apple, and a lot of people have, is they'll give you data, but you don't know what to do with it, what it means, how does this integrate with my life, right? But like when I wake up in the morning and I open up Health and it gives me my alerts, and it gives you all these, like, you can hold it up kind of, maybe you guys can see it. It gives you all these little cards, and you can customize this. You can move the cards around, add them, remove what you want and stuff like that. So it gives you an energy score, which is basically how you're going to feel for the day, as well as a sleep score. And it gives you little rewards. Actually, let's see if it will do the, I have it quiet. When you open it up, and it gives you a little dancing penguin. which is great. But it does a ta-da, like ta-da kind of thing, which is, it's kind of goofy, but it's really pleasant to wake up to, I have to admit. Reason I have a dancing penguin is that's my, after you use it for like 7 days, it gives you a sleep animal, which is sort of what your sleep habits are like. So allows you to change it and all that. I forgot what my penguin stands for, but it breaks down everything with sleep time, physical recovery, restfulness, mental recovery, sleep cycles. For instance, it says my deep sleep was 1 hour and 34 minutes. So you should get between 90 and 2 hours of deep sleep every night, right? That's what's recommended for basically feeling good. And I mentioned one time a few weeks ago, it doesn't pick up naps. I was wrong with that. It does pick up naps, and it's been very good at picking up naps. Actually, I think it's a little bit better at picking up naps than Aura. The difference is Aura would notify me. It would be like, hey, did you take a nap? And you'd be like, yeah, okay. Where this just slides it into your sleep, but it separates it. It'll say nap at a certain time. What was funny was I was telling Zach, so I will skip the details, but last night I had a couple of drinks and because I didn't go to the gym. And I don't drink often, but when I do, it would be at nighttime like most people. And as we all know, or you should know, drinking alcohol anywhere near bedtime is just not good. I will say Samsung has been very good at knowing I've been drinking. So when I look at my energy score today, it says 73 fair. And what it says, though, is it gives you guidance. It says improve sleep quality. Now, my sleep quality actually had a 95 on. So my actual sleep effort and hitting the cycles and all that was good. But because I think it was my, my sleeping heart rate was up. So this is one of the benefits of using these devices. Whenever if you smoke weed, if you drink, or you eat before bed, there's a good chance your heart rate's going to stay elevated while you're sleeping. And that's a sign your body isn't recovering because it's focusing on doing something else. So it's trying to clear out the alcohol, it's trying to digest food, versus your body should be resting and fixing itself. And it says improve sleep quality. Consuming alcohol or eating late at night before bed can reduce your sleep quality and affect your energy score. Consider avoiding these habits to improve your sleep and feel more rested. Focus on maintaining a consistent sleep schedule and reducing late night snacks. Keep up the good work. And the reason I'm saying this is because it's been very accurate and consistent that if I do go on a bender, like the next day it will always say this. And it's like, I'm pretty impressed with that. I like how like I said, you can move stuff around. I like the little animals. I think they're kind of funny. My resting heart rate, I think, was in the 60s, low 60s last night. I'm usually sometimes getting to the 50s, right? So that's how it knows. They also do this ages index, which is kind of cool. I won't go to that. It's a lab thing. It has the ECG, of course, for detecting your heart rates, which you can do. It does what I really like too is the body composition. So by touching 2 points on the watch and separating your hands, it walks you through the whole process, and you do it for 30 seconds. It basically does the same thing as those body fat scales do. When you step on them, it sends an impedance charge through your body. And those things, whether they're accurate or not, it's about the consistency and the results, right? So if you do it at the same time every day, where your stomach is empty and all that kind of stuff, you should get a baseline. And when you start, if you're trying to gain weight or lose weight, you'll see those numbers change. So whether or not you're actually that percentage of body fat, I think is irrelevant. If you're trying to lose body fat, get the baseline for a few days, and then when you start changing your diet, you should start to see that go down. And if you start to see that goes down, that's technically all that matters, right? I will say though, when I do have a Withings scale, which was actually a Nokia scale at one point, that does the impedance thing. These things have been pretty accurate with each other. I'm not happy with the results. I've been eating less because of the holiday season. Not that I'm I'm just really picky. I like staying really lean, but they were pretty spot on. Or rather, I should say the watch matched the scale pretty accurately to what it was, which I was kind of shocked that it could do that well. And the other thing, of course, I liked, and the reason I wanted this stuff was because of the S25 Ultra. It ties into your now brief, they call it, where when I open it up, it's going to tell me that have a good day, enjoy the rest of your day, chance of showers. So it gives me a full weather report. It tells me my calendar, recommends some news. And I scroll down, it gives me my health stuff built in there. So the idea is, of course, you wake up in the morning, that's the first thing you open. It tells you everything you kind of need to do. I think they could still do a little bit more work on it with integrations, but there definitely have been adding things. But I just love the concept of this. So yeah, and the battery life's been good on this too, the Ultra. So I will also say what's funny about it, it's so big. It's 47 millimeters, the Ultra, that even when I put on my big mechanical watches, they now look small, which is just like been really funny for me because I'm like, wait, I used to think this watch was almost too big, but now a 44 millimeter watch feels great. But it's been very responsive. It's comfortable to wear. Lots of third-party band options. This does have a very similar system for removing bands, just like Apple Watch, where you push a little button and it comes out. So I can change a band on this in like 5 seconds, which is really cool because there's so many third-party options for it. But yeah, that's my big endorsement of this stuff. As a health nut, I've been really liking the data. It's also been very accurate when I go for dog walks, which is like 4 times a day. I don't always turn on the walk, going on a walk kind of feature. It's very accurate at knowing I've been walking. So after 10 minutes, it just starts, it buzzes and shows it's now recording me doing a walk. And it's always nailed that perfectly. So, and the heart rate has been very accurate. I know that just because at the gym, if I'm doing elliptical, I'm grabbing the handles, it's measuring my heart rate. It's dead on with the elliptical's heart rate machine. So I'm really impressed with Samsung's work here. They're coming from behind on this stuff. It could still probably be better, but like I said, I don't know the entire accuracy, but that doesn't matter as long as I'm getting the same baselines every day and know how things are veering from that, right? So there you go. That's my thoughts on that stuff. I don't know, Zach, do you have anything you want to add?
No, not really. Other than I guess I'm sort of half regretting going all in on the Google ecosystem. Obviously, you've got basically all the Samsung stuff there. I'm all in on the Pixel and the Pixel Watch and the Pixel Buds. But yeah, I kind of wish, I've said it before, I wish Fitbit would make a Fitbit ring. I wish Google would make more interesting hardware in general. Like I think they're quite conservative. I think I've said this on the podcast before, but the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, I do love it, but I feel like I don't love it as much as I loved the first gen Pixel Fold. I loved how unique that device was as a foldable, and I just don't have the same level of love for the second gen. It's because they basically sold out and just went with what the market was doing. They made it taller, they made it narrower. It's just like, well, if I wanted that, I would have bought a One Plus Open. Like I liked that the Pixel Fold was this like book style, wider than it was taller device, like the Duo, and yeah, they gave up. So
you see the new Oppo?
Yeah, super thin.
The N5, I think it's called.
Yeah, so
N5.
I was really annoyed because it's only available in like 3 markets, and none of them are in Europe and all America.
It's still expensive. It's still like $1,800. If you don't know, just real quickly, it's stupidly thin. I think it's when you open it, it's 4.4, 4.2 millimeters.
Yeah, it's thinner than the Duo. Which, remember when the Duo was announced and it was like, this is the thinnest phones will ever be. And now we're beating it.
They had to do a special thing on this phone too, right, to accommodate the Type-C plug for it. But yeah, I think it's about, when it's closed, it's about as thin as any candy bar phone out there, which is sort of the dream and the goal here. But the battery is, I think, 5,400 milliamp. It's massive. But it's using this new battery technology. That's why. And it gets really good performance. The cameras are still a sacrifice, but they're still pretty good, I would say. But it looks just like outstanding hardware. And of course, it's hopefully lighting the fire on the Samsung to improve the Fold a little bit. Hopefully we'll see that. But yeah, we won't be seeing the Oppos over here in the US, unfortunately. And I think that about does it for the podcast, although we'll quickly do a thing of the week. Did I close the window? Darn it. Oh, no, there it is. I was going to say, my recommendation this week is, opening this weekend, is the movie Last Breath with Woody Harrelson. I got to see an early screening of this week. AMC does this cool thing called Screen Unseen, which is hilarious. Um, they just randomly announce it, and it pops up on my phone, and you have to quickly book tickets because everybody else gets it too. And they're only $7 for the ticket, but you don't know what the movie you're going to watch is. It's like you'll know the rating and the runtime. That's it. And I've been unable to successfully use that information to figure out the movie each time. And this time I even used AI, and I still didn't get it right. So the idea, of course, is these movies are all unreleased but coming out soon. It's a way to kind of get word of mouth, and it works. So Last Breath, if you've probably seen the commercials already on TV, it's about saturation divers. I've always had mad respect for. Like, I think of all the jobs in the world, like working on an oil rig or being a saturation diver. Is some of the craziest work out there. I knew that going in, and this movie's based on a true story of a guy that gets stuck down there. And I remember just watching it, even the first, like, when they go on the ship and they start, I'm like, yeah, this job is not for me. Like, it just looks, I don't like oceans. I find oceans creepy. And I scuba dive, by the way. Like, I'm a certified scuba diver. So, like, I'm okay with the Caribbean, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But they're in the North Sea, which is just like choppy and scary. And it's like, these guys can go down to 1,000 feet, and it's super dangerous. And it shows how they have to live in a compression chamber for the whole trip, basically. So they can get used to everything, and it shows how they do it all. And it's just like, it reminded me of the movie Gravity. Did you ever see that?
I've seen Gravity.
Yeah. So if you ever seen Gravity, I remember having almost an anxiety attack watching that movie. Like, that movie was just not good if you're having anxiety, because it was so like, good God. It's similar to that. It's also a short movie. It's only like 90 minutes long, so it's not a big commitment. But it's so well done, like, in how they shot it. Like, it feels very real. The acting is great in it. I don't even know if I would call special effects. I don't know how they did a lot of stuff, but it looked amazing. And it just gives you a real new appreciation for these people who basically maintain our internet, right? All the undersea cables, and fuel and gas and all that kind of stuff. These people are down there every day just taking care of that stuff. And I think it was a nice kind of tribute to those people who do that stuff, as well as being a great movie. And I love Woody Harrelson. I'll watch anything kind of with him in it. But so, yeah, go check that out. That starts this weekend. Last Breath. And it's PG-13, so you can bring younger people. Zach, do you have anything?
Yeah, I can't remember if this was already my thing of the week 2 weeks ago. If it wasn't, it is now. And if it was, it still is now. Tomb Raider remastered 4 to 6.
Oh, yeah.
I reviewed this, and I actually technically reviewed the 6th one only because that was my favorite one as a younger gentleman. It's a great collection of games. So they obviously they remastered the first 3 games last year. Now they've remastered the second set of 3 games to complete the saga of this original sort of Lara Croft saga. And it's good. The remaster is good. The remaster 4 and remaster 5 is very good. Remaster 6 is tricky because Angel of Darkness is infamous for being a game that launched basically incomplete. It was buggy. It was missing features. It was a complete mess when it launched on the PS2. All the way back in 2003. And so they've done their best to fix it up, but there's only so much you can do when half the game is missing completely. So, they've done their best, and it is in a more playable state today, and it is the first time the game has been playable on modern hardware ever, really, essentially. You've been able to play it on PC, but it always required hacks and stuff to actually get running, but now it's super easy to just get up and running and play. And so, yeah, if you're interested in the original Adventures of Lara Croft, you can now play all 6 games on modern consoles, and that's really fun as a fan of the original Lara Croft games. I'm hoping they move on and do the next trilogy of games, because for those who don't know, Lara Croft has been rebooted 3 times in game form. We had the first 6 games, which was one version of Lara Croft. Then the next 3 games was another version of Lara Croft, and now the 3 games after that, which is the current trilogy, I guess, is a new Lara Croft. And so I think with the next Lara Croft game, it's going to be a brand new Lara Croft as well. At this point, we could have a multiverse game only with Lara Crofts. And I frankly don't know why they don't consider doing that. That would be very fun. But yes,
Yeah, they should bring them all. They should bring all the iterations into one game.
yes, what I'm saying, yeah, because all of
Yeah,
the different Lara Crofts are different. Like, they are based on the same character, but they all have different personalities and they all do things differently and talk differently and stuff. So, it would be a good game. I'd play it. But yeah, that's my thing of the
fair
week.
enough. Actually, I have one more, but we'll probably talk about it next week if you can remind me. But Next DNS.
Oh yes,
I've been doing router stuff, and I've upgraded. I switched over. There's like Google's DNS service, and then of course there's a few others out there. So I discovered Next DNS, and I'm just overwhelmingly impressed by everything it offers. It's not just, for those who don't recall quickly, DNS. It's the websites don't actually. If you go to windowscentral.com, that's not the actual address, right? It's an actual IP address. But instead of us memorizing IP addresses, we type in windowscentral.com, which then hits a DNS server, which gets the appropriate numbers and goes back, and that's how you get to the internet and all that. The speed of your DNS server can impact your performance of your browsing. So ideally you want a better one. And NextDNS not only has like fast DNS, but it has, I'll talk about it next week. It has an amazing suite of features in it. And it's only like $1.99 a month or $19 a year. And it's but they have security, privacy. Like I know a lot of people that talk about using Raspberry Pi to set up as an ad blocker on their network, which is fine, and that's a cool idea. This is built in. Like you can just set your DNS in your router to Next DNS, and then go to the website, and you can pick from like one of 20 ad blocking services, and add them all. Add one or two, whatever. They have ones for your phone, and you add those, and it'll just blanket your entire network. Now is done with that. You didn't need any extra hardware for it at all. It also has parental control, and it has a ton of security. It has threat intelligence feeds, AI-driven threat detection, Google safe browsing, crypto jacking protection, DNS rebind. Like it has a bunch of, one of the things it has, let's see if I can, IDN homograph attacks protection. This is when you type in a web address, but you're off by like a letter, or you like say you put Google, but you typed in 3 O's instead of just 2. If someone like had hijacked that triple one, they could have made it look like google.com, and then you log into it and it gets your information and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a way of kind of like spoofing stuff. This will block that. And it's just a lot of smart stuff. I'll talk a little bit more about it next week, but it's just an outstanding service that I can't believe I didn't know about it. It's just really worth getting. You can try it for free. And if you don't use the internet a lot at your house, you can totally use it for free. So, but yeah, there you go. Let's go to Q&A with the audience right now. But as always, we will be back next week. You can follow me at Twitter and on Blue Sky and at Threads. I'm not going to reread all the addresses. I'm getting tired of doing this stuff. But you can figure it out, just Daniel Rubino, or you can follow Zac at Zac Bowden. We're on there, though, and do respond to you guys. So thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time. Take care, everyone.
brilliant. So yes, if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat, and we will hang around to answer. If there are no questions, then we will not hang around. So be sure to put them in. I might look into this Next DNS stuff. I've not heard of it before.
It's awesome. I was like really shocked by it. And I think it was because I asked Copilot. I think it gave me like recommendations. Yeah, I dropped a link in there. But like I said, you can try it out for free.
Yeah, how much is it though? What's the actual price once you've tried it?
Oh, so if you are say under 300,000 requests, it's free.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, it's $1.99 a month, or you can pay for it a year for $19.90.
That's worth it. That's
yeah. I mean, that's nothing, right? $2 a month for everything you're getting here, including the security protection. Like, I'm really happy with that. And they have like experimental stuff. Like they have blocked dynamic DNS host names as beta.
Hassam asks, "Hey guys, thoughts on the new iPhone? Terrible value, iPhone. The budget iPhone is dead. Apple is not interested in selling a budget iPhone to you. $600 for what that product is not worth it. If you can get it on discount, maybe it becomes worth it. But I think without MagSafe and 60 hertz screen, and you don't even get the dynamic island, and it's just not worth it. I don't think. I think you should probably look if you're in the market. If that's your price bracket around $600, you can probably find a refurbished or used 15 Pro instead, especially if you need Apple Intelligence. And I would recommend that over getting a new iPhone 16e. I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, it's definitely being met with a lot of skepticism from people, and it is questionable on the value. But I also think because if you have an iPhone, like that's where you're going to go to, right? It's also people or Apple may argue it's a good device to try out joining the Apple ecosystem without spending a lot of money.
Yeah, I
but
guess.
That just seems like, yeah.
But again,
I don't know how
you can get a used iPhone 15 Pro for the same price, and that's way more phone for the money. Or you could even get an older iPhone 14 new still, and if you don't need Apple Intelligence, and I think that's a better buy than 16e. The only reason you'd get 16e is if you wanted a brand new phone and it needed Apple Intelligence. But that's who is that?
right.
Who.
Greg asked about the thoughts on the framework PCs. We had a whole section on the podcast about that, so just rewind. And we'll talk.
TLDR, they're fun. We like them. Got the iPhone 16. Sure, you shouldn't buy the SE for that small price difference. So the 16 is what, $799 or $899?
Yeah,
$799.
$799.
I think the iPhone's overpriced in general, especially since it doesn't have a 120 hertz screen at that price. But I still think you're getting a better phone for $799 for the iPhone 16 than you are getting $599 for the 16e. You get MagSafe, you get Dynamic Island, you get Apple Intelligence, and the second camera. Did I already mention that? I can't remember. Better camera. Do you think that the VM you get access to from the Windows 365 link could be accessed from other computers? Yes. I mean, that's kind of by design. The cloud PCs can be accessed from anywhere where you can log into the Windows 365 service. You probably can't do it at the same time, but if you had a Windows 365 link and you logged into your cloud PC there one day and then you went home and needed to log into it at home on your a work laptop or a personal laptop, you could do that if your employer has allowed that. I think employers can lock down the cloud PCs so they can only be accessed from certain places, but if they haven't configured that, then yes, you should ideally be able to access it from anywhere on any device. Have you heard anything recently around plans for the Microsoft/Xbox mobile store? Have not. I still don't really know what the goal is of that. Is the goal to offer mobile games as well as Xbox games, and you can download them through the Xbox store, or is it just you can buy an Xbox game in the app and then stream it? Because I don't know. Since we're talking phones, is Microsoft completely abandoning Windows to integrate any telephony features? Yes, there are no telephony features in Windows today as is. I mean, unless you're considering things like 5G telephony, which is I don't consider that at all. There is mobile connectivity, so again, 5G and stuff is built into Windows. But the telephony, the ability to make phone calls using the cellular connection, hasn't been part of Windows for a long time, and there are no plans to reintroduce it to Windows. Do you ever miss Surface Duo? I miss it every day. I have one on my desk. I use it for work emails and stuff. So I still technically use it. But yeah, I do miss using it as a daily driver. I did love this device. And the Duo too. Both were incredible. And I'm sad Microsoft kicked the bucket with them. This is one of those devices where I wish it wasn't Microsoft who made them, because any other company would have given them a lot more love and care.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Zac on that. I was a big fan of the Duo.
What was your preferred Duo device? Duo 1 or Duo 2? I've gone back and forth on this. I think ultimately the Duo 2 I had more fun with. It was that moment where it became an actual proper phone replacement for me, obviously with the NFC and the better camera system and stuff. And I just liked how much thicker and heavier it was. Like it was a much more heavier, substantial device, and I just loved how much more premium it felt. The Duo 1 is incredible in its own right, but it had its flaws. The screens were only 60 hertz, and like the battery wasn't amazing, and the USB-C port would always break, and then no NFC, and it's like, yeah, I missed it from a hardware like aesthetics perspective. I think the Duo 1 wins, but as an overall product, I think the Duo 2 wins.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I would say too. I mean, Duo 2 just brought so much better stuff.
Yeah.
It had those curved inner displays, which then acted as like a small outer display, which was just
amazing.
Super cool. But yeah, NFC for tap to pay was great. The cameras are way better and higher refresh displays. Yeah, it was just a way better experience. It was such a big jump between the first one and the second one. It was really impressive. It was like, wow, this is impressive. So like, let's see what version 3 is. It's just like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, dead.
Yeah, it's a shame that like small companies can kind of like even like Framework, right? Like you can do micro brands today, what we're called, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maintain, yeah, okay, it's a niche thing, but they're okay with catering to a niche market and just making that product. And it's like, it's weird, kind of a shame that Microsoft couldn't do that either. Like, all right, so Duo would never be as popular as Samsung foldables or Pixel. That's fine. Like, but people who had Duos seem to have liked it a lot. I mean, we don't know. We don't have the internal numbers, right? Maybe people really hated the Duo from their experience. But it's like, if people were happy with it, like, why not just cater to that, hardcore audience? It would have, the development on that platform, by them being committed to it, would have allowed them to commit and make better software that they could just put in the Play Store for other devices too. And of course, now we see it's really come back to bite them, because the Duo could have been a Duo 3 or Duo 4 at this point, could have been like the AI device for them, right? They could have literally renamed it like Copilot Duo, and like, and it just like would have like really highlighted their services. And it's just like they kind of blew that now. It's just like,
yep. It is funny because there's nothing you can say because it's so obvious what they should have done. And they just didn't do it.
And the worst part is, it's like they can't ever really go back.
No, they definitely cannot. Nobody would trust them after giving them a second chance and them blowing it the way they did. It's insane. No way.
Yeah, and so it's like, they should have really given it a hard thought. Like, listen, if we do this, there's literally no going back. We can never go back and create another phone ever. It's just like, it's like, what if something really big happens? And then like literally, not even a year later, like AI comes onto the table, right?
Yeah. Shocking.
Yeah, not obvious to them, it seems. I mean, there's a problem with Microsoft. They were sitting on Windows Mobile for how many years? Not, a team in Windows CE was paying attention to it and working on it. It was doing cool stuff. The rest of the company was focused on desktop, which was fine and made sense in a way. But the fact that the higher ups didn't see mobile computing as like the next big thing, I mean, it's complete asinine behavior. It's just, I don't know how like out of touch you can be with this stuff.
They were busy correcting Vista, and then by the time 7 came out,
Yeah.
Stephen Sinofsky was going nuts. Did Windows 8, who basically did that without consulting the Windows Phone team at all. It's like, Christ, come on, guys. Come on, guys. Work together on this, please.
As far as them killing Neo, I mean,
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I don't know if I like would have high hopes for Neo.
It was a
I
cool
think it would have.
concept,
Yeah.
but you're right. I think the Duo makes more sense in that form factor. To this day, I think dual screen makes more sense than foldable on Android phones. I wouldn't
It
say
would
the
have been a
same.
lot.
So go on.
Yeah. I was going to say there's a lot with the Neo that would have been drawbacks, including 10x
Yeah, especially
being a
now.
potential issue. The processor, I don't think was going to be super powerful.
Nope.
I don't know about battery life, but it was going to be. It
Bad.
would have been amazing looking hardware, and I imagine definitely fun to use. And I probably would have liked it, made use of it, but at the same time, I think there would have been some pushbacks on things.
Yeah, yeah, it would have been tough. It probably would have been a better sell if it ran full Windows, believe it or not, just with it. I don't. I've always wondered why they didn't just build a dual screen shell for Windows desktop. Why did they
Mm-hmm.
have to do it on Core OS? Why did it have to be the lightweight platform? It could have just been like, hey, here's Windows 11, but we've got two shells. We've got a normal shell for desktop for everyone, and then the Neo has a special dual screen shell, and it's just like done and done. Like it works as you would expect. Like I don't know. I don't know why they never did that. An iPad Mini with a stylus running Windows would be really awesome. iPad Mini's 8 inches, right? Yeah, Windows has given up on 8 inches. Other than actually, to be fair, we can't say that these days because obviously the gaming handhelds are usually around that screen size. So we might see. To be fair, I believe the rumor is we're going to see some improvements in that area in the coming year, 2 years. But it will be mostly for gamers, so I don't know how that's going to really benefit tablet users. Maybe it will. I don't know, but we'll have to see.
Did we see the duo in Captain America 4? No, but I've heard people reference it. Just another
Product placement thing.
God,
Yeah.
I'm gonna come with that scene and just be like, ah, fine. That I mean, the duo. You already talked about this, but the duo Gen 1 hardware was just so unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like just the design, the fact it did what it did. Okay, so it had issues, right? No doubt about it.
But who
But that was a
doesn't?
hard. But they made that like I don't know how you like. We've never worked with Android before, but we're going to try a brand new form factor that's not technically supported.
Yeah.
like they had a lot on their plate, you know. It was a bold swing, but when you look at that hardware, it is just like how. If you want to see like the Surface team firing on all cylinders to make
It's the
something, it's
Duo.
like that
Yeah.
device is it, you know.
Yeah, there's a few key Surface devices that really sort of highlighted Surface on form. Obviously, the original Surface RT is in brand new condition was just a piece of art. It was incredible. The magnesium chassis and how flush that kickstand sat with that chassis was so great. The Surface Book, I think, is another one of those moments where it's like, this is incredible. Look, like
Mhm.
the feel and hold is so substantial. And yeah, the Surface Duo is definitely another one of those. And the Surface Studio, the desktop, I think. All of those stand out, I think. Incredible, like, pieces of hardware engineering. I was going to include the Laptop Studio in that, but I am actually not, because I don't think the Laptop Studio is Surface on top form. I think the Laptop Studio is Surface compromising.
Yeah.
It's not a pretty laptop, and yeah, they knew that. They knew it wasn't a pretty laptop. All right, last call for questions, and then we will be heading off. I would like to see the Snapdragon X Elite on a handheld gaming PC with Windows and ARM. I think that's a possibility as we move in, as Windows and ARM matures further and whatnot. I think we will see Windows and ARM powered handhelds with running Windows at some point. Maybe not with Gen 1, but Gen 2 or Gen 3 when the GPU gets better. I think that's definitely a possibility. So no new Surface form factors? Not as far as I'm aware currently, no. We're getting refreshes for the Surface Pro and Surface Laptop this year, to my knowledge. And maybe the Laptop Studio later this year. Again, I don't really know what's going on with that, but no brand new Surface devices in regards to like new product lines or form factors. I think we're in an era of Surface now where it's all about just maintaining the status quo and making iterations to existing product lines. New form factor, no, but they should keep improving current devices. Yeah, I agree, and I think they will. Like we said before, the Laptop 7 is a fantastic laptop. I called it the best laptop of 2024, and yeah, there's no reason to believe that they won't continue in improving on that. But in regards to brand new form factors, I just don't think we're going to see much from Surface going forward. All right, I think we can probably call it there. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next Thursday. Follow us on the socials. We'll keep you updated when we go live. But until then, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.